Amazing Rimuru fans, the creator hopes you are enjoying the new videos. YouTube has stopped monetizing her channel because they don't accept text-to-speech voices. They want her to use her own voice for all the characters, but she knows you will not enjoy it this way. Your support will help her continue to make videos for you. Check out her Patreon page to support her. The link is in the description.
With his agreement with Guy, they didn't think that Yuki would seriously back the Empire. However, they feared that now that he had become a corps commander, he would fall into his own trap. To Cerberus, the fact that a top-ranking officer of the military was on their side was very appealing, but on the contrary, it implied the risk of being taken in by the military. To eat or to be eaten, it would take only a single wrong turn to meet their doom. It was this worry which prompted Misha's question, and Yuki was well aware of it.
There's no need to worry,
Yuki reassured.
If Rimuru-san does hold out against the Empire, that's good for us too. The Empire will be in the way of achieving our goals. So, it's not just because Demon Lord Guy told me to do so. I will have to eat away at their strength, one way or the other. Now that I've become a corps commander, I can control when it happens. Think of the situation this way.
Now that Yuki had become one of the 3 generals of the Empire, it was safe to say that he had the inner workings of the Imperial Army in his hands. If he knew the military strategy of the Empire, he could even predict its faults too. This meant he'd be able to accurately predict when the Empire would take military action, what the size of their army would be, and even when the Imperial mainland would be at its most vulnerable. If resistance in the West was strong, the Empire would have to exert more military force. And if that were to happen, Yuki thought that no matter how tight of a defense the Empire had, an opportunity would surely show itself, sooner or later.
We will seize that opportunity,
Yuki declared, slamming his fist on the table. Kigali smiled while standing up straight, and Damrata and the other 2, still sitting, got excited at the meaning of those words.
Do you mean a coup d'etat?
Ah, I can't wait for that to happen. Just what you'd expect from Yuki-sama.
Ain't that interesting? Whether it be the Empire or a demon lord, I'll destroy them all.
Yuki ignored Vega, who was evidently excited, and got back on track.
Well, that's our ultimate goal. At the end of the day, my promise with Guy was to throw the Empire into chaos. I need to keep my promise. Incidentally, we will also stir up the West, so I don't think that's something we have the right to complain about,
Yuki said with a grin. Guy hadn't forbidden him from interfering with the West, so Yuki was free to do whatever he wanted.
So, you want the Empire and the West to fight each other, and then crush the Empire's head in the meantime.
Damrata trailed off. Misha revealed a brilliant smile.
You always come up with the most devious of plans.
Not really. I think anyone could have come up with such a thing.
Some may have been able to come up with such a plan, but fewer were willing to carry it out. No, there might have been people who wanted to do it, but lacked the strength required to see it through. Yuki was different. He could both come up with such a plan and bring it to fruition.
I've also leaked some information to Master Gadra. That old man is a trailblazing, flexible thinker, and for some reason, he holds a sharp grudge against the Western nations. Developing various weapons, one of his contributions to the Empire, is a product of this animus.
Indeed, his reputation has spread far and wide.
I know, right? Once he investigates those tidbits, he will surely recognize Demon Lord Rimuru as a threat to the Empire's ambitions and see how dangerous he really is.
And what do you think will happen then?
Master Gadra has a lot of influence over the Imperial Army. However, he doesn't actually have any authority. That's because that old man's interests revolve around getting revenge. So, in my opinion, if I steer him properly, I can pit him against Demon Lord Rimuru.
At the same time, Yuki wanted Gadra to look for more information about the dungeon.
If that happens,
Damrata speculated,
then it will be possible to weaken both Demon Lord Rimuru and the Imperial Army, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
Yuki nodded with satisfaction. Yuki didn't intend to make a move on Rimuru himself, but he was more than welcome to have someone else challenge him of their own accord. That was why he had devised many cowardly measures.
In my opinion,
he continued, going further into detail.
There are 3 people that we need to be wary of in the Empire, and one of them is Master Gadra.
Gadra was an archmage who had lived for a long time. He was a Majin who knew all about the inner workings of the capital and was also a champion who had survived the last battle to subjugate the storm dragon Veldora. Those who knew all this feared him.
So, who are the other 2?
Kigali wondered, showing genuine interest, much to Yuki's chagrin.
Actually, I haven't been able to figure out their identities. That's why I can say that they are definitely a troublesome bunch.
Yuki wasn't able to nail down their real identities even after making full use of his information network. So, from this fact alone, it was obvious how vexatious these people were.
Could it be that they are top-ranking members of the Imperial Guardians?
Suggested Misha, as if she suddenly remembered something. Yuki vaguely affirmed the question. It was rumored within the army that the single-digit Imperial Knights were stronger than the Corps commanders. Yuki personally felt that it wasn't a mere rumor. Although he rose to the position of Corps commander, his rank was only at double-digit. There was no point in trying to contest a rank battle unless you knew who your opponent was. And, in order to become a single digit, one was required to appeal directly to the Emperor and win the battle in his presence. This fact was only known to those who were privileged enough to consider the position.
I think I might be able to beat a single digit. However, I didn't want to show my trump card in front of our enemies, so I didn't apply for a rank battle before the Emperor.
Nevertheless, Yuki was chosen as a Corps commander, but that was because of the connections he had with Gadra.
But if that's the case, then you must fight them first, so that we can know for sure if you're stronger than them or not. Anyway, who are these troublesome folks you're talking about? Do you mean there are more than 9 people behind the single digits?
Vega raised an excellent point. Yuki nodded, a bit shocked at that.
Well, you're right. There is a possibility that a nasty guy is hiding among those 9 people. But hey, you can't be wary of someone you've never seen before, can you? Guys, I'm talking about the people who have already shown themselves in broad daylight.
And who's that?
Damrata inquired.
The head of the Imperial Intelligence Agency, Tatsuya Kondo.
You're right. I can't get a handle on the man's identity.
It's creepy that we know his name and appearance, but we don't know what he's really like.
Tatsuya Kondo, as his name suggested, was an otherworlder. But as far as personal details went, that was all anyone knew about him. There was even a rumor that he was the specter that fed on information. He was just a first lieutenant in rank, but none of the Corps commanders had the authority to command him. It meant that the Imperial Intelligence Bureau stood above the military complex in the power hierarchy.
Weird, right? It's only an assumption, but I think he's also a single digit.
I see.
Now that you mention it, that does add up.
Damrata and Kigali nodded firmly. Misha was also contemplating the possibility but appeared to have no objections.
Then, who is the last person?
Vega, apparently the only one disinterested in the matter, asked Yuki, urging him to cut to the chase.
How impatient. About Tatsuya Kondo, it's best to meet him first. I'll find an opportunity to arrange just that with him. As for the last person, I'm not sure about this either.
What? What does that mean?
Vega demanded in a slightly rougher tone. The excitement must have gotten to his head.
Calm down, Vega.
Yuki lightly warned him.
Yeah, sorry.
Vega, who was reprimanded, broke out in a cold sweat. The difference in class between him and Yuki was apparent.
The last person is the one who sits next to the Emperor. She had such a tremendous presence that you could feel it from the other side of the blinds.
No one but Yuki was aware of her true identity, or even the fact that she existed. From this alone, one could tell how dangerous that person was.
That kind of big shot, huh? I never heard anything of the sort.
Damrata replied on everyone's behalf.
As I thought.
Yuki muttered.
Despite such a presence, no one seems to have noticed her existence. I can only imagine how dangerous she is.
The room fell silent.
Does that person really exist? I haven't heard any rumors suggesting that sort of thing.
On the other hand, none of us would have believed it if we hadn't heard it from you.
Yuki smiled at his subordinates who still eyed him skeptically.
Don't worry about it. Just remember that these 3 will be the major obstacles when we stage a coup in the Empire. I'm going to get rid of Master Gadra first. So, Damrata, start digging about Kondo Tatsuya.
Very well.
Misha, just continue your mission.
Understood. I'll continue to focus on wrapping the commander of the Armored Corps around my little finger.
What about me?
Vega pointed out.
You're going to infiltrate the Magic Beast Corps. With your strength, you'll become an Imperial Guardian in no time. However, you're not allowed to kill the Corps commander, got it?
Got it. I'll do my best.
Vega laughed ferociously, happy with the fact that he had finally received his order. Is it going to be all right? Yuki was a little bit worried but decided to trust Vega, nevertheless. If, by any chance, he did kill a Corps commander, the military actions of the Empire would be delayed. Yuki was anxious about that, but he decided to dismiss it and planned to cross that bridge when he got to it. The 3 heads of Cerberus left, making Yuki and Kigali the only people in the room.
Say, Yuki-sama, will they be able to perform their mission successfully?
Beats me. Even in all my efforts to be careful, I stepped on a tiger's tail named Gi. So, I don't mean to be hypocritical, but I want them to carry out their missions as best as they can.
Damrata would investigate Tatsuya Kondo. Misha would ensnare the commander of the Armored Corps. Vega was ordered to rise up in the Magic Beast Corps. Each of them embarked on a perilous mission under Yuki's command. As their leader, he could only wish for the success of his subordinates.
But we've finally come this far. The war is going to start soon.
Yeah, that's right. Now then, it will be interesting seeing which side wins.
Please don't get ahead of yourself. Even if the coup succeeds, what happens after that is way more crucial.
Yeah, that's why we have Laplace and the crew working on it. Our plan is flawless.
The two smiled at each other. Their goal wasn't to let the Empire win. The more the war became bogged down, the more the national power of the Empire declined. That was what they were aiming for, and then, they would carry out a coup d'état. The success or failure of that was the linchpin to Yuki and Kigali's plans.
We will turn the Emperor into a puppet and establish a new empire. And then,
we will reconcile peacefully with the Western nations.
And when that happens,
we will assassinate the Emperor.
If defeating Demon Lord Rimuru proved difficult, then they didn't need to push their luck. After losing to Gi, Yuki had given up and settled on medium to short-term world domination. He realized that until he gained absolute power, going ahead with violence was the height of folly. Instead, focusing on increasing his own trump cards for now, was far wiser. If the devastation from the war spiraled into rivers of blood,
I will awaken as a true demon lord.
Looking forward to that, Kigali. By then, I will have mastered my new power as well.
Yuki had awakened an ultimate skill, and with it, he had felt that his lifespan was extended several times over. Not only that, but he had also learned the fact that there was a superior existence in this world, the absolute being, Demon Lord Gi. Disregard such an existence, and world domination would be nothing more than a pipe dream. He had slipped under Gi's radar and was now accumulating strength. They would incite the Empire and prolong the war to exhaust both East and West. If the Emperor's assassination happened at a time when the masses grew weary and turned their backs on the war, the world would face a more chaotic and horrific period. By taking advantage of this confusion, they would aim for further awakening. That was the gist of the plan Yuki and Kigali had drawn up.
In any case, we should be exceedingly careful.
Indeed. Really careful, I suppose.
Then they looked at each other again and smirked. Despite their massive intellect, these two big brains didn't attribute much importance to the dungeon. They only saw its value in hiding important facilities, and even a whole city, and to pique the interest of Master Gadra, just to make him a nuisance for Rimuru. They might also go into the labyrinth someday, so they had a fleeting thought about the necessity to, at the very least, have it investigated in order to find clues on how to conquer it. As a result, the dungeon attack team would return with unexpected findings, which Yuki hadn't foreseen.
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. Shout out to the new members of Anime Kohai supporters: Miles Tapin, Jan L, Fraser Guzman, Hinavin. Thank you so much for helping out. Shout out to the commenters: 68 Sheikh Saud, Lovely, Linglang Pagoda, Wabbalabadabdab, Marianita Lozano, and last but not the least, shout out to Tangel. I'll see you guys in the next video.